Welcome in. This is Timeline T. I am your host, the Sam D, aka Sam Duzame Jr. You know what time it is. This is a NFC East preview edition of Timeline T. We've been tapping in to all the divisions. We have the AFC and the NFC North next week, so make sure you tap into that. But man, this division here. There's a lot of fan bases that care a lot about these teams. Y'all know what it is about them Cowboys. Them Eagles fans are no joke, and them G-Men fans are starting to chirp, especially another deal today. We'll talk about that. But there's a lot to get into. I don't want to waste too much of y'all time here because I do have a guest. He knows his shit. He's a dude that's been heavy in this media game. Been knowing him for a minute, decade plus easy. We walk the same halls over at SiriusXM. He's moved on to bigger and better. You've seen him at SI. You've seen him at NBC. Seen and heard him over at the Better Sports Network as well. But more importantly, he's getting heavy into these YouTube streets. So at the Fantasy Executive, make sure you tap into that. I'll have his info in the description when everything wraps up here and I can do all the edit stuff. But I am very happy to bring this dude in. He's a dude that, we had a chance to work together and we was able to chop it up. I know what he's about. He talks that talk. He's unfiltered. He's doing good numbers on his channel. So we love to support other creators. So without any further delay, I'd like to bring in my next guest on Timeline T, Corey Parsons. Let me make sure we get him up in here. I'm going to show the screen as well. Let me go ahead and unmute the mic. Corey, what is good, bro?
What is good, my good brother Sam D? It's good to be here talking to you. You know what I'm saying? Definitely you're a guy. As I started to get into these YouTube streets, this digital marketplace, I was like, I got to kind of follow the lead of my man Sam D, holler at him and see what he's doing. So definitely glad to be here. You can head on over to that YouTube space at the Fantasy Exec. We get you ready to make good wagers, winning wagers, talk plenty of trash. Just a whole around cool atmosphere. And listen, the reason why I love this NFC East, right, is because you mentioned those fan bases, right? Mm-hmm. And then look at those media markets. The New York media market, yes, the Washington, D.C. media market, the Philadelphia media market. It was years ago they wanted to do realignment, and they thought about putting the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC South. But Jerry was like, I got to be up there with those big boys to do those TV numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So there you go right there. So there you go. But definitely one of the premier divisions in all of sports.
No doubt, man. And I appreciate the chat pulling up early. We got Scrub Zero in the house. We got Corey in the house. Corey is a big Cowboys fan, so he's actually out there in Dallas, was able to check in at training camp earlier this week, so he'll be active in the chat, I assume. Scrub Zero is a Giants fan, but off top, I just want y'all in the chat to know. Y'all know how we do it here. Who do you think is going to win this division? Just let me know in the chat. We're just going to have that be a reoccurring theme as me and Corey break this down team by team throughout this division. Let me know in the chat, who do y'all think is going to win this NFC East? And look, I like to always go with the strength of schedule. I know it's not the one that's designed by the NFL. This is purely based off Vegas's forecasted win totals, but I think it at least could set the scene for what you're trying to expect. And as we look here, obviously green means it's easy. Red means it's hard pause. So I think we'll go right to this Dallas Cowboys right there, kind of in the middle, right next to the G-Men right there. And then if we try to locate, well, where's everybody else? We got the Eagles up here with the 13th easiest schedule in the league. And then there's one more team. We got to find them. Where are they? Where are they? Oh, down here with the 24th easiest schedule, which in reverse means the 8th or 9th hardest schedule is the Washington Commanders. So it's not like last year where all four teams in NFC East had the easiest schedules in the league. Different story this year. But Corey, I just want to tee you up here nice and early. Give me your overall easy, premature, way too early preview of who do you think is going to come out this AFC East?
The NFC East. Listen, I think really right now, that's all good. I think really right now, when you look at it, I think this is a division that took 3 teams to the playoffs last year. I think it's going to be a strong division again this year. I think everybody in the NFC East will be competitive. Now, obviously, a 2-horse race when you look at the top of the division between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. If I had to be put right now to pick a winner, I think the best two players in this division are Jalen Hurts and Micah Parsons. I'm going to go with the defender that's starting to come into his own as the guy that's going to be able to lead the Dallas Cowboys this year. But now, when it comes to Dallas, very controversial to say this, but it's all about what number 4 has been able to do, especially with turning over the football. Big debate on X, Twitter, this over the past weekend. Shorty said, Ashley Baker's her name. Dak Prescott don't get the same love that the brothers give Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts and stuff like that. And it's not because he's at Kenny Chesney concerts. It's because he's thrown 25 interceptions in his last 28 games. Cannot lose the games for the football team. Dak is a problem for Dallas, but this year it's supposed to be a Dak-friendly offense. We'll see how it plays out. But right now, I give the Cowboys the slightest edge over the Eagles, mainly because I worry about the changes in offensive and defensive coordinator.
Agreed. I definitely think that is something we need to worry about when it comes to the Eagles. I do like your points about the Cowboys. I think it is all about Dak. The QB is the most important position. We keep having that being told to us every single day when it comes to NFL. It's all about the QB. So if you're wearing that star and that helmet and you're getting paid the way that Dak is, and they've kind of crafted this offense to kind of open things up here, maybe a lot of 3 wide, a lot of 11 personnel possibly this year for the Cowboys. I do think if there's ever going to be a chance for Dak to step up and take the reins of this franchise, not just the team, this whole franchise, and be really him, not just default him, I think it's this year.
So here's the deal. Basically, what you do and how you started is, let's just take a peek back to when Dak gets hurt last season and he misses those 5 or 6 games, whatever that was. And Dallas was, either 4-1 and 5-1 during that stretch. That's because with Cooper Rush in there, Mike McCarthy took over the play calling for the most part. He said, listen, Kellen Moore, relax with your first downs. I got to win the football game, right? So I need to play defense. I need to run the football. I need to manage the game and manage the clock. That's the head coach's job. And Mike McCarthy, see, listen, he did a good job with that. And I think that's what Dallas is looking to go to more of this year, where they drafted Mozzie Smith. Okay, so what do you do when you draft Mozzie Smith? Dominant 3 technique. You eat up blockers. It frees up Micah Parsons to go in there and make more dynamic plays on defense. They add Stephon Gilmore. So they could have, and then you got Dan Quinn coaching this unit too. Had the bad injury to the rookie Overshown in the preseason. That wasn't a good look. But you see what Dallas is trying to do. They're trying to build a team like the 2014 Dallas Cowboy team with DeMarco Murray, where they play strong defense, they run the football well, and they limit the turnovers. The only thing is, hopefully this year when you get to Green Bay, you get a better call from the referee.
That's caught it, right? I mean, we all know. I mean, look, we can. Yep. So I think we'll go ahead and tap in. I see the chat's going crazy. I like it. Let's see. Scrub Zero's got the Eagles winning this division. Okay, now that's a Giants fan saying that. So
okay,
we'll
there's nothing wrong with that. Listen,
with that.
Good team.
Yeah. Corey, I think the Giants will win it. Eagles finish second. Okay, so wow. And now he is a Cowboys fan. Now he is also a Cowboys hater. He's one of those.
Yes.
Cowboy realist, could be a Cowboy hater.
Well, used to disappointment. You know what I'm saying? And listen, trust me.
His whole life.
As somebody who's rooting for
as
somebody who's rooting for the team as well, I understand where that disappointment comes in. But that disappointment recently can be placed on one's shoulders. It's number 4. Number 4 masquerades around like he's a franchise quarterback. I got to see it. Now, 61-36 as a starter. That's phenomenal. I give Dak Prescott his props on that. But the games they lose, you can point to him as the reason why they lose them.
Especially those turnovers that you mentioned earlier. So, all right. I
when Tony Pollard got hit in the game, when Tony Pollard got hurt in the game versus the 49ers, the next play, Dak Prescott threw an interception. Sam,
I remember.
When the star running back gets hurt, that's when the $40 million a year quarterback's supposed to step up.
Time to shine. Yeah. I agree. All right, the chat is heavy. Chat, keep it popping, but we're going to start with the team down I-95. The Philadelphia Eagles. All right, so let's go ahead and tap in with these Eagles, right? Obviously, took the L in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts gets the bag in the offseason. They've tinkered with the running backs. You could argue the running back room might be better than what it was last year, at least on paper, in terms of who they brought in, DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny. Walk me through here in terms of what you've seen from this Philadelphia offseason. What have you liked? What haven't you liked? How do you think they go into this position? You said earlier about you're not sure about the coordinators. Is there anything else besides that makes you give some worry about the Eagles running it back out the NFC?
So here's the deal, right? Coming into the year last year, I was the guy, I'm going to be honest with you, that was like, you know what? I really don't know what Jalen Hurts is. They still got that first-round draft pick. Maybe they decide to use that and draft a quarterback this upcoming year. And then by the time September was over, I was like, oh, shit. You know what I'm saying? Son is the real deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you look at A.J. Brown, when you put him with a dude that can average 18, 19, 20 yards a catch, that's elite wide receiver. That's T.O. type numbers. So you got to like that. And then, obviously, the way they was able to scheme the offense with that six-back attack by making Hurts a player that the defense had to account for, that right there was problematic. Now, here's the deal. Do defensive coordinators, catch on to Jalen Hurts and that six-back attack this year? Now, the running backs, here's the deal. The running back is really Hurts. Rashad Penny runs like a madman, but he might as well play flag football. DeAndre Swift, a tremendous disappointment coming out the University of Georgia. So, but you really don't need big running backs. Like, I know they're supposed to be intrigued with Taylor right now. And if Taylor would be perfect with Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen running that six-back offense there. That's the way it should be. Yeah. Now, if you get him in there, I think obviously you bring Taylor, you have to pay him. So you'll use him in that running back position more. But they may have the best wide receiver duo in the league. The quarterback is great. The head coach has proven that he is not a liability. So when you look at the offensive side of the football, they're good in the trenches as well with that defensive line. That offensive line. But Brown, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts is how that team works right there. And like I said, I worry about the loss of coordinators, and I would worry about the rest of the coaches catching up to what Philadelphia is trying to do. But if that is not the case, then they're going to be a Final Four team in the NFC.
For sure. Look, I think, this offense should be a juggernaut, right? Jalen Hurts, as you said, he's probably the actual RB1 in that offense. You have Dallas Goedert, who was banged up. He's a guy that, arguably certainly top 10, but could even be a top 5 tight end in this league when he's right. And then this offensive line is just nothing but mashes up this line. You're talking about at least from the tackles and obviously at center, but this line is dominant. I don't see any fallback.
Jason Kelsey's a Hall of Famer. Lane Johnson's a guy who's an all-pro type player.
For sure.
So, the offensive line is, they draft very well. They know how to draft. They draft very well. They kind of take what the board gives to them. You know what I mean? Now, the running back situation, like you said, it's not dynamic. But when you have Hurts, he is the dynamic runner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. See, what I like about Hurts is, right, he does have weapons in Brown and Smith. But I think if Brown and Smith wasn't there, listen, when you make $50 million a year, you are the weapon.
Right.
I don't want to hear about he don't got no weapons. You make $50 million, you the weapon.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
And then, so that's how I look at that offense solid. Like I said, does the rest of the league catch on to it? That's all we have to see.
For sure. And I think, having one of the better offensive lines, when we look into the transition to the defense, this defensive line, now look, they can't stop the run, or at least last year they couldn't stop the run. But in terms of just having a bunch of dudes being able to go, eight deep pause and having this rotation of, bringing back Fletcher Coxman looked like that wasn't going to happen. Bringing, Jordan Davis, obviously, and then I think potentially the steal of the first round, being able to slide down and sit there at 9 and get Jalen Carter. I think the interior of this line should be a special one. However, the fact that this team, with this relatively the same D-line last year, couldn't stop the run, That's a little troubling to me. And I wonder if the Philadelphia defense takes a step back this year. Because if you couldn't stop the run last year with Cox and Jordan Davis, even though Jalen Carter's being integrated here, I don't know if he's going to get enough snaps to really make that much of an impact, because you can't give him snaps over Cox. Maybe you rotate him with Davis. But how do you think they can improve the rush defense that was towards the bottom in damn near every category imaginable?
And then they're going to miss Hargrave. Listen, a three technique, that dynamic D tackle, that three technique, that's what they're expecting Carter to be. Now, for the most part, I don't think NFL evaluators make a lot of mistakes. And you've seen the Philadelphia Eagles do a good job. But Jalen Carter in the college football playoff games last year, he was terrible. He has a little Jadeveon Clowney to him where he shows up every now and then. Like, his motor is not always on 100, and that's probably the reason why he sat there on the board. And then obviously he has some off the field things too, longer than people think. So listen, you got to get a three technique that can get in there, that can get in the paint, and that can knock down the running back and eat up some blocks for those dynamic rushers that they have. Now, can Carter be that three technique? I think so, but I think Cox maybe a little bit past his time. Pause. But I look at Jalen Carter. Like I said, everybody said, "Oh, they got Jalen Carter too." Well, he could have been there for them for a reason.
That's fair. That's fair, and certainly looking at the linebacking core, Dean is going to be able to step in there and become the guy in the middle. He's going to have the green dot. He's going to be the one getting all the defensive calls. So Nakobe Dean, who we really didn't see that much of, now gets to be the guy here in the middle. I'm a little worried about that as well. Like they took some losses in the offseason here for a defense that was in the Super Bowl and was an opportunistic defense, was a defense that was really adept at getting off the field on third down. But I'm a little concerned about some of the losses they've taken here. And I know they can keep drafting Georgia dudes, and there's nothing wrong with that on paper. But is there any concern with having such a lack of dynamic linebacking crew? Because Nakobe Dean looks the part. He has the talent, but can he execute, especially being the guy that's going to be in the middle, getting all the defensive calls?
They're decent, and then Nolan Smith is a player. He was available for them to draft because he stayed hurt. Reddick has defensive player of the year type talent and upside. He can really get after the quarterback. When you look at those linebackers, now Dean can give you a little bit in pass coverage. Obviously, that's very important for linebackers, the way that running backs utilize out the backfield. But it's not one of the strengths of their defense, their linebacker bunch. Really, Hargrave, that three technique that can dominate the middle, that makes you a championship team. It really does. You look at Chris Jones with the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So when you can dominate, when you see no quarterback, today's quarterback, they can get away from edge rushers. But when you can get in the paint and disrupt them in the middle, that makes it very uncomfortable. That's how the Giants was able to get 2 wins over Tom Brady, 2 fluke wins over Tom Brady.
Facts.
Sorry, Giant fans.
they know it. Wins. Deep down, they know it. They happy they got them, but they know they had no business winning them shits.
Oh my God, Victor Cruz jumping over
Manningham with the fucking sideline. Like, come on, dog.
Manningham catching the ball on your helmet. People don't remember in 2007 they was getting ready to run Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning out of New York.
All of them was out of there.
Run.
Yep,
they was done in 2007, but it is what it is. They call me a hater for bringing that up.
Hey, look, I love it, though, because we definitely have some Giants fans in the chat. I think finishing off this defense, I think the secondary, obviously what was in flux, they definitely have lost some pieces here. Reed Blankenship being the starter at safety, I'm definitely concerned about that. So, again, this Eagles defense, they were big in fantasy for me last year because they caused a lot of turnovers, caused a lot of havoc. But now, just in terms of stopping dudes, I'm just a little concerned about how this Eagles defense shapes out this year. I mean, the back four.
Through the Eagles' lean years or not Super Bowl years, or when the Eagles are not good, it's because their secondary is not good. And this has been a thing for the Philadelphia Eagles for a while. Now, Slay, we know what Slay is. He's one of the top players in his position at the league. But the rest of these dudes are average at best. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
To quote my
Agreed.
man Kevin Samuels, rest in
Yeah.
peace. Average at best. So James Bradbury, the average at best. But let me But yeah, when their secondary is not strong, that's when their secondary historically has been one of the weaknesses of their defense. Now, what they can do, like I said, they can use that defensive line and those linebackers to create a pass rush to make it easier for the secondary. But also, what you have with the Eagles, if you ever notice how Philadelphia plays, they kick your ass in the second quarter. That's Philadelphia's quarter. So then, by the time they get out of halftime and they really sit Hurts in that running game on you, you're playing from behind all the time in the second half, and that leads to turnovers.
Agreed. So, all right, we'll move to over under with the Philadelphia Eagles. The line here is set at 11.5. That's a big number. They won 14 games last year, so we understand. But 11.5 again with a strength of schedule that isn't the easiest here. A lot of talent, both sides of the ball. A lot of big names, both sides of the ball. But as you mentioned, could be shaky with new coordinators stepping in. Even money for the over. Favorite seems to be under on 11.5. What are you taking right now for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Philadelphia is an 11 win football team. I think 11-6 is probably the likely record for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, if he can, Jalen Hurts is still, he can still miss a game or two. You know what I'm saying? Because of his style of play. That NFC East is going to be tough. They're not going to run through that division. Teams like the Commanders and the Giants are going to be much more competitive this year. We'll get to them in a minute. But listen, I respectfully take the under because I think they're an 11-win team. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Respectfully take the under. I don't want Eagle fans blowing up my inbox.
I think I have to agree with you there. I think 12 is a big number with that schedule. The division is competitive. It's just hard for me to see them getting 12. So I'll roll with you and go slightly under. I think 11 is a good number for them. So let us know in the chat.
Fantasy thing. Okay, go ahead. Do your thing.
Yeah, just let me know in the chat. Over under 11.5 for the Eagles. Now, Corey is very much on point when it comes to fantasy. I want y'all to check out his content, subscribe to his channel, all that good stuff. But go ahead, give us a fantasy outlook, for the Philadelphia Eagles.
None of those running backs are probably going to be dudes that you really going to struggle to put in your lineup. You're not really going to be able to trust them. Like I said, Swift has let people down. Penny's a good player, but like I said, he should play flag football. Kenneth Gainwell, if you're a zero RB guy, you want to build a team with running backs, with wide receivers, he could be a guy. But listen, if you're in a 12-team league with just you and your partners, but if you are like a guy like me who put a little bit of money down and play a little high-stakes fantasy football, if you are trying to hit one of those big tournaments, I think A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts stack, even go all in. A.J. Brown, you probably can't get all three in a draft. But if you want to go with A.J. Brown in the first round and come back in even the second or come back in the third at the latest and grab Jalen Hurts, that could be a strategy that can help you knock down one of those big best ball or high-stake tournaments.
Agreed. As someone who did a Kelsey Mahomes stack last year and rode it to the championship game.
You won a championship with that.
You know what I'm saying? So I co-sign that 100%. So good shit there. Let's go ahead and tap into the chat. Scrub Zero over for the Eagles, just barely 12 wins. Okay. Scrub Zero heavy in the chat today. You see, saying you are a hater, but it's all good. So, okay, respect. You know what I'm saying? From a Giants fan, respect. Let's see. Scrub Zero, that's a fair point. Eagles need to find a way to stop the run better this year, or they're going to get themselves had and possibly lose a division because of it. Okay. Corey, our resident Cowboys fan, Philly lost 5 starters on defense. Do with that information what you will. Okay. All right. Let's see. Now, Corey is known to be a little bit of a Kellen Moore apologist, so let's see what he's got here. Kellen Moore had backup linemen running routes. What are we talking about? So I guess he's saying it's not all on 4.
Yeah, exactly. Not all on Dak. The only person they make more excuses for than Dak Prescott is Trey Lance.
Poor Trey Lance, man. Only 200 and something snaps. God
No
damn.
chance, Trey
No
Lance.
chance. All right, so there's a lot going on in the chat. I'll catch up with that in a little bit, but I do not want to hesitate. Let's go ahead. It's one of the main reasons why I was like, NFC East, who do I want to? I said, I know Corey's on his shit when it comes to these Cowboys. Let's see what we can get from a real Cowboy, not just a fan, but a guy that actually knows the game, knows how to break this shit down, and will, as you have heard, will be critical when necessary. So the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, no Zeke. Tony Pollard's the guy now, even though it's only on the franchise tag. Walk me through the offseason. You mentioned Mozzie in the draft. Well, walk me through what you think. I think, actually, real quick, I think the trades that they made for Cooks and Gilmore were really low-key some stealth moves, and that's not something we're used to when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. But walk me through your thoughts on the Cowboys offseason.
So listen, obviously the first move that they made, the most biggest thing that they did was addition by subtraction by getting rid of Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore, independent contractor, really his job is to get first downs and build his resume. His job is not to win football games. He's gone. Now let's talk about Ezekiel Elliott. Listen, it was time. You know what I'm saying? It was time. He looked bad going down the stretch, so that was not a good look. But listen, great Dallas Cowboy for many years, but it's time to move on and hopefully, listen, Ezekiel Elliott can go to New England and lead the league in touchdowns. It really could happen because that's really all he's good at right now. Is short, is goal line and pass protection. The two trades, fantastic. You go out there and you get Gilmore. Now you have a chance to have the best secondary in the league, right? That is a thing that really could happen in Dallas, along with the best defensive line in the league. Now, if you like the way T.Y. Hilton played for the Cowboys down the stretch last week, Brandon Cooks is that time 100. He is the perfect guy to pair alongside CeeDee Lamb. And another thing, Dak Prescott does not throw, amazingly, he doesn't really throw 50-50 balls. He likes wide open wide receivers, and he's still throwing interceptions. But Cooks is a guy who can get wide open. Now, he's bounced around, played for a number of teams, but listen, he's still not 30 years old yet. And the last couple of he hasn't really had a decent quarterback for a while now. So the additions of Cooks and Gilmore and then the drafting of Mozzie Smith, it kind of showed you, okay, Dallas is trying to win with defense this year. So that's a good start right there.
I agree. I think at times we can be overcritical. I think at times we can just try to find reasons to be negative on a team. Look, I am not the biggest Mike McCarthy guy. I don't know why anyone would be. But I do think, getting Kellen Moore, his walk-in papers, I'm not saying it's all him, but something wasn't right. I don't know what it was. Something just wasn't right. I think this offense with Zeke not there, I think over the last couple of years, it's been a forcing of the run game because they had Zeke, and we know what Zeke used to be. So it's kind of like, well, he's still there, so we still kind of have to feed him. I don't think they have that type of loyalty towards Tony Pollard. So it's like, I really think they're going to run it out here and go with 11 personnel. Like, I really think you open this up and get the 3 wide receivers with the addition of Cooks, especially to go along with CeeDee Lamb and Gallup. I really like those 3 being like the main set for this offense. And as you mentioned with Dak Prescott, I think you build this offense around Dak. Stop tiptoeing around it. He's the guy. Build this offense around him. And I think that's why, obviously Zeke is also old, but I think that's why get Zeke up out of there so you're not, indebted to loyalty there. Tony Pollard knows his place. I think this old line, with Tyler Smith, who was dominant at tackle low key last year.
If you could have voted for if offensive linemen was to get votes for offensive rookie of the year, Tyler Smith would have gotten some votes for offensive rookie of the year. Tyron Smith is a Hall of Famer. Zach Martin might be the best offensive lineman to ever play football. You know what I'm saying? So they've done a good job building up that offensive line. That's been one of their strengths over the course of the past decade or so. That will continue to be a strength. Tony Pollard, you just saw it last year. The difference between him and Ezekiel Elliott was night and day. Tony Pollard And then we like what we see out of Deuce Vaughn. But listen, one of the reasons why, let's just talk honestly about the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Please,
And
let's
the,
do
the
it.
elephant in the room. The only person that's bigger than the star is not a dude that's ever played one snap. It's Jerry
Correct.
Jones. And
Correct.
that's the problem in Dallas, right? Jerry Jones sets the culture. The head coach should be the person to set the culture. And that's the problem in Dallas. Because if a player has an issue, he's not going to go to Mike McCarthy. He's going to go to Jerry Jones. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So Mike McCarthy comes into a situation, right? And he has Kellen Moore and other coaches placed on his staff. Then Jerry says Kellen Moore is going to call the plays. Now, after back-to-back 12-5 seasons, Mike McCarthy now has leverage. All right, I want Kellen Moore going. Give it to my guy, Schottenheimer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm going to call the plays because now he has leverage. But still, when they show up at training camp, who's the first person standing in front of a microphone? Jerry Jones.
As
So
always.
ultimately, if the head coach doesn't set the culture, that is ultimately going to be problematic. But the roster on paper, you're looking at it right now, is one of the best in the NFL.
Right.
But
right.
guess what? It always is. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you really got to see if somebody can put it together. If they do not make it to the NFC Championship game this year, it's going to be tough.
With McCarthy taking over the play calls, do you think that it'll be more of a pass first instead of run first team? Because it certainly appears to be, because no offense to Tony Pollard, he certainly is an upgrade at this point, in Zeke's career. He's certainly an upgrade over Zeke, but I wouldn't call him a franchise back. But so with that being said, and the investments they've made have seemingly all been to favor the pass game, are we going to see a new look Dallas offense where it's not going to be so predicated on establish the run, let Dak cook off, play action or bootlegs and whatnot? Do you think we're going to open it up this year?
No, I think it's still established to run, keep the defense rested so they can be able to rush the passer. But this is what I think, though. But I think the passing game is more efficient. I liken back to that 2014 team that finished the fight team. That team right there, DeMarco Murray led the NFL in rushing that year. As a matter of fact, DeMarco Murray won Offensive Player of the Year. Tony Romo threw 38 touchdowns that year. It's efficient. When the offense runs the football better, the quarterback should be more efficient. So instead of getting volume, you get efficiency. So that's why I think the passing game will be very efficient. So you won't get as much passes, but the passes you do get are going to be big plays, they're going to be chunk plays, and they're going to be touchdowns. Because listen, talked about A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, not a 20 yards to catch guy, but CeeDee Lamb can give you 115, 120 receptions.
He's up there. Yeah, for sure. All right, I'll hit the chat real quick. There's definitely some Cowboys commentary going on in the chat. Let's see. Okay, Magic Man is in the house. He's saying
up, Magic
NFC
Man?
Championship game or bust for the Dallas Cowboys.
But what's bust, though? Is Jerry going to leave? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Listen, I would have.
Well, McCarthy will be gone though, right? Like I think now he's gotten rid of Kellen Moore. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, but McCarthy's he's not known to be that guy. Like, yeah, he won a bowl with Aaron Rodgers, but it's like, I think if anyone's going to be expendable, it has to be him, right? I mean, certainly, obviously, it'll never be Jerry, it'll never be Steve, and any of those guys up top, but it has to be McCarthy, right?
It's either, listen, would you extend 4? I would not extend the quarterback. Like, I would make the quarterback work. I would make the quarterback play for the extension. And then if the quarterback don't like it, like I thought they should have drafted your man out of Tennessee this year to send the quarterback a message. Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker. They wasn't going to do that. Okay, I get that. But now they're talking about adding a couple more years to this contract. Let's slow down before we add some more years to this contract. I think it would be tough. Let's say Dallas loses in the division round again this year. After a 10 to 12 win season. Can you really can this dude after back-to-back 12-5? What if he goes 12-5 3 years in a row? But then again, in the NBA, we saw Monty Williams.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it can happen.
Yeah,
it's
right.
certainly precedent. Like, and plus it's how they look. Like if 4 plays out of his mind, if the offense doesn't miss a beat and looks how we think they look, and it's maybe the defensive fault, which is hard for me to imagine, but let's just paint a scenario where maybe it's the defense's fault instead of the offense, then I think he skates. But if there's any sort of regression, from
He could be in
Four or
trouble.
from any of these dudes after you done got Kellen Moore up out of there, there's nobody else to blame but McCarthy at that point.
Yeah, you see, now you don't have nobody to point the finger at. See, now if you're pointing fingers, you got to point at the quarterback. And for the coach to go in there and start pointing fingers at the quarterback, you don't know how Jerry might take that. I don't think Jerry's in love with the quarterback, though.
He's not. Never has, right? He had him on the franchise tag and all that. Like, he never.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I'm a big Tony Romo guy. Okay. So, I was never sold. You know what I'm saying? But here's the deal, right? I was watching something, and Greg Cosell was on there. Greg Cosell from NFL Films. And he said something that I had been thinking, but he put it much better than I could. He said that since the injury, Dak Prescott is a different player. Prescott used to be a playmaker. Now Prescott is a ball distributor. And you can't pay a ball distributor $40 million. When you're $40 million, you got to make plays. Is Dak scared to run after the injury? He's eliminated. Rushing is out of his game now. He does not run.
I agree, and I think that's why I'm hoping this year with no Zeke there, I would like to think if they do 11 personnel, there's got to be some running lanes for him. There's got to be some running lanes. You got to get some RPO shit in there. You got to evolve with the times. Everyone's doing RPO. Everyone's doing rollouts and bootlegs. And they do that with Dak. But as you mentioned, he doesn't really run the rock, and it could be tied to the injury a couple of years ago. But I mean, he hasn't really. He's one of those athletic QBs, or he's perceived to be athletic, but he actually was athletic at one point. I don't think he's that far removed from that, right? I'm not bugging him in that.
If I can pull over a screen right here, I would think that Dak Prescott may have had a double-digit rushing touchdown season in his career. Like, Dak Prescott was big in the running game for the Dallas Cowboys throughout the early part of his career, pre-injury. Let me look at some stats right quick. Rushing, and listen. He has 26 rushing touchdowns in his career. He has 2 in the last 2 seasons. So I know I'm not tripping. The running is going.
Yeah,
it's good. Yeah, he doesn't run anymore. Yeah,
it's very important if they try to get that off. I do think that needs to be the next step, because now we're seeing where before it was a niche thing to be able to run. Now it's a prerequisite to run the rock. If you're not athletic, it's going to be curtains for you to get drafted in this NFL. You can't be a statue in the pocket anymore. You can't be fucking Drew Bledsoe. Like, you have to be able to move and get around and be able to dip and evade and all of that shit. So we know Dak has it. Was it the system? Is it his confidence in his body off the injuries? I think that will be another sign of watching for this year, for sure.
Exactly. See, he's not like, remember when Joe Flacco first started getting bad? He would just look at the pocket. Yeah, Dak doesn't look at the pocket, but he does not try to make plays. Yeah. Right. So, and listen, that's real for a quarterback. The happy feet, do some big dudes coming after you.
All right, let's see what else we got here in the chat. Corey, also a Romo fan. Real Romo fans like myself were never all in on Dak.
There you go. Okay. Because Tony Romo cared, bro. Dak Prescott throw interception in the championship game, and then he come, I got to do better. Like, what the fuck you mean you got to do better? You know what I'm saying? Tony Romo collapsed in the locker room in Philadelphia. Right. That's how I want my quarterback to go out.
I'd like you to give a damn.
I'm like, you know what? The guy on the floor, he cares. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Dak Prescott come to the podium, cowboy hat, talk about, I got to do better. Man, get out of here.
All right, let's see what else we got. Corey, don't extend Dak. Go get Kyler Murray from Arizona and bring him home.
No, God, no. Let me tell you something. Kyler Murray, no. Don't bring Kyler Murray nowhere near the Dallas Cowboys. Please, Jesus. Yo, when Buda Baker got hurt, everybody on the team went to the cart to greet Buda Baker.
Talk about it.
Except for Kyler Murray.
Except
for Kyler Murray. He's not a leader. You know what I'm saying? And you can't, don't bring Kyler Murray nowhere near Dallas. I could see him being an Atlanta Falcon next year, though.
Ooh, I like that. Spicy. I like that. Because obviously, Desmond Ridder, I mean, look, I did the NFC South last week, and people were really in the comments trying to swear up and down that they've seen enough from Desmond Ridder. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? 4 fucking starts? Like, are you kidding me? Desmond Ridder, you're handing the keys after 4 games? Fuck out of here, bro.
I gotta tell people all the time. Like we see the games, the coaches see the practice. So maybe they think it's a little something there. They went with. Listen, he runs. I know we're talking NFC East, so right quick on Ritter. He runs Arthur Smith offense. That's a game manager offense. So let's see what he can do.
That's and again with all those weapons, how can you trick that off? Like it's almost like, yo, if you're Desmond Ritter, I got Bijan, Algiers, and Cordell behind me. I got Drake on one side. I got Pitts up the fucking seam. Like, yeah, like I should be nice in this. If he's mid, I would do like you said and try to go get a real QB in there next year. Like stop fucking around. Arthur Blank, we know he got the pockets. Like go ahead and dig into them pockets, bruh, and go get yourself a quarterback.
Exactly. You know how much a slab of wood costs at Home Depot where Arthur Blanks is the
That's what I'm saying, dog. Like
exactly.
we already know.
Stole enough wood
to All right, let's see. We'll do a couple more before we move on. And you know what? Nah, let's go ahead and finish this off. So, Cowboys win total over under 10 games.
Yeah,
that's a rough number.
I take the over 10. That's probably going to jump up to 10.5. I take the over 10. Listen, the Dallas Cowboys is a funny team to bet on their win total because you're never really going to get the right number because half the country loves the team, half the country hate the team. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you got a situation where the numbers and the juice can fluctuate up and down as we move throughout the course of the season. But I would take the Dallas Cowboys to be an 11-12 win team again this year, even with that schedule being tough. One thing about the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott, they dominate the NFC East. They've been doing it for a number of years now. And as far as their opponents this year, Aaron Rodgers does come back to town. But the AFC East is a division that they can handle. And then the NFC North is, that you can, listen, I'm not buying the Lions.
Yeah, come on. Yeah. Let's see. I will... I will only take the over only because I think the bottom half of this division is really mid. And I think they'll be able to, as you mentioned, like winning games in the division certainly is important. So I'll go ahead and take the over as well, but I think it'll be predicated on the fact that I don't think the Giants are as good as people think they are. And I think Washington has a lot of shit to figure out. So I'll go ahead and take the over as well. Magic Man one time in the comments, the only way Dak gets another year with the Cowboys is somehow the Cowboys don't make the NFC Championship game is if Dak pulls a 2021 Josh Allen and where he plays amazing. But
so interesting because Josh Allen is an AFC version of Dak Prescott. A lot of hype, a lot of interceptions, and, no appearances in the championship. Well, I think he has been to the championship game, I believe. No, has the Bills been to the championship? I don't believe the Bills have been to the championship. They lost that game. They losing the division round. Like Dallas.
No, they lost 2 years ago. That was the
when they beat Lamar. When they beat Lamar, they went to the championship game that year. That is correct.
There you go.
All right, and now in Dallas fantasy, Pollard is the man, but don't forget about the other running backs too. Deuce Vaughn, and he's not listed. Malik Davis. Obviously, Dallas offense is legit. Now the tight end they don't have one, but the offense is legit. You can trust all those dudes for fantasy. I'm not really big on Prescott, but Pollard good, Vaughn good, Cooks good, Lamb good, and then Gallup at his ADP. Jalen Tolbert could be an interesting sleeper if somebody gets hurt. He's a guy who's been making some plays in camp.
Okay. Are you under the impression that CeeDee Lamb is a first or second round pick in the draft?
I would take CeeDee Lamb in the first round on the turn. So anywhere between picks 1-9 to 2-2, CeeDee Lamb should go in that range.
Copy that. Okay. You're getting real deal analysis. He was heavy on SiriusXM on the fantasy channel there. He's been at NBC. He's been at Sports Illustrated. Understand he's putting out quality content. He's talking his shit. So we want to support Corey Parsons for pulling up here. He's giving you real deal analysis. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe and do all the normal YouTube stuff, like and all that good stuff when it comes to the content. So, all right. Magic Man, Josh Allen made it the year the Bucks won the Super Bowl. Okay, so that was when they got to the championship game. Yep. And Magic Man also, he loves that comparison of Dak and Josh Allen. I agree. I think that's a really solid comparison in terms of dissecting those two. All right, so We go from the heavyweights of this division, which is clearly the Eagles and the Cowboys, to I think a team that was gassed last year, had one of the easiest schedules in the league, and I think have gotten worse. So we'll go from the Cowboys to the G-Men, the New York Football Giants. Everything we need to know. Obviously, they bring back Daniel Jones, give him the bag. Saquon comes back on the tag, crawling on his hands and knees after that running back zoom. If you want to get into the wide receiver room, I don't see a number one on this roster, Corey. I don't know about you. I don't see not one wide. No. I don't see not one dude, unless who the kid that got in the draft, Hyatt, takes a huge step. But I mean, I think this offense is going to be basically Saquon and Daniel Jones running the rock and praying for third and shorts this entire season. So I'll tee it up for you. What did you like about the Giants offseason? Didn't like, so on and so forth. Forecast for us the New York Giants season this upcoming year.
All right, so let's hop into it. First of all, shout out to the New York Giants for getting back into the mix since the first time since they all took that picture on that boat. They've been trashed since then. But then last year, you see with a strong head coach who sets a good system, the New York Giants were able to take a less talented roster and really coach them up and get back to where they needed to be. This is a team that was in salary cap hell for years, had one of the worst rosters in football for years, and now it looks like they're starting to come through and put it together. But let's start with the first mistake. Who was the Giants negotiating against when they gave Daniel Jones this contract? Because if you tell Daniel Jones, okay, go out there and find the contract and we'll match it, he wouldn't have came back with that contract. Nope. So they were negotiating against themselves with that. But now the way the contract is done, they do have ways to get out of it. The quarterback can run the football, right? As long as he doesn't turn the football over, he can be a game manager in that system, and he can be serviceable. Brian Daboll is very good with coaching up quarterbacks. But when you give him this money, you know what happens? Then Saquon Barkley says, where's mine? Exactly. Then Andrew Thomas says, where's mine? Then Dexter Lawrence says, where's mine? And listen, that can affect the culture of the team as well. Now, Daboll has to come back and get this culture back to where it was last year. I think that's going to be critical. As far as Barkley, I'm not going to take a shot at Barkley. But I mean,
you can.
You make this big stink about the contract.
Let's go.
Then you come back and you get $900,000 extra in incentives that you have never reached in your career, right?
Talk about it.
And then you get $2 million up front. Any bank in the United States would have gave Saquon Barkley a $2 million loan.
Yeah.
So what was all the big fuss about with the contract when you basically came back and did a deal that was still very team friendly? You're not going to hit those incentives to get that extra $900,000. Really, all you got was a $2 million up front. Saquon Barkley made $21 million his rookie year. Now, let's talk about Barkley. He was great last year. MVP type candidate. Was excellent. Was excellent getting out there. He was great in fantasy last year. He was definitely a leader on this New York Giant offense. But this is only the second time in his career he's played over 13 games. Really had his most effective year running and catching the football at the backfield. Nobody wants to talk about this. If you look at Saquon Barkley's measurables, they start to go down year after year after year. Here's a little tip right here where you can look at running back of how efficient is your running back. Look at the running back's yards per catch. 7.9, 8.4, 10. 10 is elite. That's Christian McCaffrey. Now look at the next 2 years after that.
Right.
That's
6.
not elite.
4, 5.9, yep.
That's not elite. You want your running back, if you throw the ball to your running back, you need to have a first down. That's Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, those kind of players. This right here, that's Ezekiel Elliott, 5.9. You know what I'm saying? So his measurables are slowly starting to come down, and you look at the yards per attempt. Now, last year at 4.5, yes, you like that, but Saquon Barkley is 4.5 guy. I need Saquon Barkley to be 5. You know what I'm saying? That's what I need Barkley to be at. So I don't want to talk about really the best player on their team. I don't want to look like a hater, but I can. Is Saquon Barkley really that good? He's on the back round of first. He's on the back of the first round of fantasy drafts this year. I'm fading him.
Wow. Okay. So,
And then you look at those wide receivers. That's
Bruh,
about as mid as you can get. That's Reggie.
It is the definition of mid. Like they got like 6 number 3 wide receivers. Like what the fuck is this? Like I don't understand how you're going to trot out here. And this is, Sterling Shepard and Jamison Crowder. I don't know how they're even going to make this team. But the room is so mid that they might even still make this the final roster because of how mid the rest of this group is. Like
Paris Campbell can't stay healthy. Darius Slayton has been a guy that we have talked about. Hodgins and Robinson each showed a little pop at times last year. Jalen Hyatt looks to be the real deal. Sterling Shepard is done. And where in the hell did they find Jamison Crowder at?
Dog, I really had to do a double take looking this up. I was like, wait, they really got fucking Jamison Crowder? Like how, dog? I think this offense is going to be so predicated on if Saquon, to your point earlier, if Saquon can be that guy. Because as much as Daniel Jones was able to take advantage and scramble, and it's not like he's shaking dudes. He's not. He just finds a way to get yards.
How to run the football. You know how to run the football. He's very good at running. When Jason Garrett was the Giants OC, the play that Dak Prescott got hurt on, the Giants run that play all the time. And that's where he gets a lot of the run where he fell down was that same play. So for some odd reason, that play has been unstoppable when Daniel Jones runs it. Listen, Jones is a guy that can, Daniel Jones can throw for 3,000 and run for 1,000. As crazy as that sounds,
I agree.
Only Lamar Jackson has done that, but Daniel Jones can do that. The problem is he is not a traditional quarterback playmaker.
No.
If you have to put the ball in his hands with no Saquon Barkley and say, go win the game,
good luck.
But Darren Waller, that tight end, though, that's their best.
If he's healthy, though, that's his thing with Waller. Like, it's always health with him. He's battled through a lot of shit off the field and whatnot. But it's like, I thought he was going to cook with Carr and Devonta Adams last year in Vegas. I thought that was going to be a top-tier offense. Then he gets hurt again. And then when he came back, he was never fully himself. Like, I think that the strength of this team is in, at least the offense anyway, is 3 dudes. It's Daniel Jones, Saquon, and Andrew Thomas. Outside of that,
Andrew Thomas, fantastic draft pick. He's a dude that's going to be an all-pro type player. The rest of those dudes, Evan Neal is decent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's
the rest of those dudes is shaky. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing: is no depth on that line either.
Correct. And and that's why for me, this offense, they need to keep the scores close and leading for that, because there's not a lot of explosive guys here. Like there's unless Jalen Hyatt shows some flash like he did in college, I don't see any game breakers here outside of Saquon. He's still the best player. You could argue maybe Andrew Thomas, but in terms of the best player on this offense, it's still Saquon. And with that being said, this defense, they look the part. I like Dexter Lawrence a lot. Leonard Williams, all right. Thibodeau, flash certainly last year. Gerard Davis got hurt, so maybe that explains the move they made earlier today. So there's a lot here with this defense. I'm more intrigued about this Giants defense than I am the offense. The offense to me is mid as hell. I think the strength of this team is the defense.
And Dexter Lawrence, like we talked about with Chris Jones, like we talked about what we're trying to get Mozzie to be, is a dominant 3 technique. The problem is the players around him can't capitalize off of his dominance like they can in Philadelphia, like they can in Kansas City. Now, to Thibodeau's credit, Thibodeau put them in the playoffs last year because he was fantastic in the game against Washington. Mm-hmm. If he is not on the field in the game against Washington, they don't win that game. He put them in the playoffs with that performance against Washington last year. Now, when they got to the playoffs, everybody knew that Kirk Cousins in Minnesota was fugazi.
Right.
But you know what? To the Giants' credit, they went out on the road. They got that win. And they came to Philadelphia next week, and they got their ass kicked. The Giants are still kind of in that get their ass kicked by good teams and beat the Vikings. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They still got some of that. They can go either way. But the problem is not that they're coached poorly. It's that the talent, this roster still is missing talent. That's the main problem. This roster is still missing talent. But they got like a couple: Thibodeau, Lawrence, Thomas, Barkley, if Wallace stays healthy. But outside of that, look at this secondary. You know what I mean?
Bruh.
Like,
Bruh.
you can really Xavier McKinney. How long?
I mean, come on, dogs. Like,
Xavier McKinney, son.
I'm saying, bro. Like, it's
God.
the strength in his defense is in the front four. Like, it starts with the front four, and you're crossing your fingers after that when it comes to the back seven. Like that's kind of where it goes for me. And normally I'm very pro build through the line, but when literally the back seven is just a bunch of dudes like Adoree Jackson.
Yeah,
I mean,
these guys got to guard AJ Brown. These guys got to guard CeeDee Lamb. These guys got to guard Devontae Smith. It's not gonna happen.
And Dotson and McLaurin and all, like, come on, dogs. Like, who are they guarding? And the thing about it is we know this defense. Martindale likes to play man, and he likes to blitz a lot. How are you going to do that with this back four?
No.
How are you going to do that?
Yeah, Thibodeau would have to make a major leap this year. Because, listen, if Thibodeau can get a consistent pass rush, then you can really let, Thomas and Williams and those guys in the middle of that line eat.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got to be able to get a consistent pass rush this year. That was not there last year. But to his credit, when they needed that pass rush the most, he was able to deliver.
He stepped up, for sure. So I think, ultimately when it comes to the Giants, there's a lot to dissect from the defensive side. I think offense, you're really just wishing on a prayer between Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley to rush their way. Between the two of them, maybe they could crack 2K or like 2,500 for this team to be as successful as they were last year. But let's go ahead and slide to the over and the under for the win total. 7.5.
7 is too low. The Giants can win 8-9 games. 7 is too low. I would take the over on the 7.5. I think the Giants are an 8-win team this year. Obviously, with any sign of trouble, any sign of issue on that line, either line, and that team's going to fall apart pretty quickly. They are very well coached. The coach can get them to 8 wins, but New York still needs a talent influx. Listen, they're not terrible like they were 2-3 years ago. Like, the Giants were the worst team in football, right. and I was like, this is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Because Giant fans, I know we suck, bro. You know what I'm saying? They try to back out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, get your ass here. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna take this lashing. I give them over 7.5.
Okay, bet. So look, I want to take the under so bad here, but as you said, I think that number's too low. But let me know in the chat, over under 7.5 for the New York Football Giants. But I want to take the under because as much as I'm not necessarily a Daniel Jones hater, it's just I think where they drafted him, what they expected of him, the whole Manning connection, like they really gassed this dude to be something that they thought he was going to be. And I just don't think he'll ever be there. Like, I know he got the Dak contract with the numbers for 160, but go ahead and look at that guaranteed money. It ain't nowhere near what Dak got. And I think there's a reason why. It's because they don't think he's that dude. He got the balloon number, the funny money number, but in terms of a real contract that's up there with the other QBs, he is not in their caliber. So I want to take the under, but that number of 7.5 is too low. I have to take the over. Let's see what we have here.
If you're a New York Giant fan,
yep,
and Daniel Jones' experiment doesn't work out this year, and Kirk Cousins is available,
woo,
do you
have to think about it, right? Have to think about it.
I just throw it out there. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of mid. It's as mid as you get with Kirk Cousins, but this is 3,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. Not a lot of attempts. You know what I'm saying?
And that was a great year. That's considered a great year for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't top
and then
tier.
He only threw 5 interceptions, so that's good. Unlike Dak Prescott, he's able to keep the ball, and he doesn't lose the game. He doesn't see. This is the Daniel Jones. Don't lose the game.
Right.
He doesn't lose the
game manager.
He made the Pro Bowl last year.
He made the Pro. I mean, but look, dog, we know everybody.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Fifth alternate. You know what I'm saying? Like, 20 motherfuckers say they don't want to go. Then here comes Daniel Jones. You know what I'm saying? So, ultimately, I'll look at this, right? I think there was a stat here. Yeah, stat to remember. Like Wink Martindale, he had the best chance to blitz, right? They blitz at a percentage of 39 points, damn near 40%, which is tops in the whole NFL. So they blitz a lot. Now, with this front four that we just talked about that has potential, that's why I'm so concerned about this damn secondary, because if you're going to blitz again 40% of the time, dog, in this division with the receivers you've named, we ain't even mentioned the tight ends or even just the fact that all the other quarterbacks in this division can run. And you're going to be blitzing 40%. Even Sam Howell can move around. Like, don't sleep on Sam Howell. We'll get to the Commanders in a second. But, like, it's interesting to me if Wink Martindale tries to run back that same scheme where they're blitzing hellas.
So the Giants need to focus. They need to build their team through the offensive line because they're going to have to deal with the pass rush. They're going to have to deal with one of the best defenders this league may have ever seen in Micah Parsons for another decade. So they need to build their team through their O-line. Andrew Thomas, yes, you pay him big money, not Daniel Jones.
All right, let's hit the chat to see. It's a lot of Giants fans in the chat. I appreciate that. If y'all could hit that like button, a brother would appreciate that. Algorithm likes it, therefore I like it. Let's see. Scrub Zero saying Daniel Jones isn't any better than Kirk Cousins. Okay. Let's see. We need an upgrade. Scrub Zero, we need an upgrade, and Cousins isn't an upgrade. I don't know about that.
This is where the Cousins talk comes from for me. I think the Vikings, the Vikings last year,
it's over for
they
them.
won, 14 games? They won like 11 of those games by one score.
Exactly.
Negative regression could make then mind you, Kirk Cousins is on the last year of his deal.
Yep. They were about to trade him.
If the Vikings get off to a slow start, I could see them saying, you know what, let's go get Caleb Williams. Tank mode it is.
Facts.
And then Kirk Cousins becomes available.
Facts. No, I agree. And look, the fact that the Vikings were seriously considering, or at least they offered, allegedly, but not really, they offered Kirk Cousins for Trey Lance in the offseason kind of lets you know what they think of Kirk Cousins long-term, dog. So it's quite the possibility that Kirk Cousins will be available on the market.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a contract. He's coming into the back of this year. If that team starts to stink it up, they could definitely say, okay, let's go get Caleb. Let's go get Drizzy Drake May. You know what I'm saying? And see if we can take the next step with a quarterback like that and let Kirk Cousins walk. But listen, if I'm Kirk Cousins, Kirk Cousins done made as much money as James Harden. You know what I'm saying? And he's a football player.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let's see. Scrub Zero. I got the Giants winning 9 to 10 games. Okay.
9-win Giant team is possible.
Yeah. Magic Man's also taking the over. Yeah, that number is just too low. 7.5 is way too low. All right, cool. All right, so to the team that I actually think low-key could be the most boom or bust team in this division. I think it's safe to predict them to be towards the bottom. I think it's safe to say they're going to be the 4th place team in this division. But I think there is a pathway where the Washington Commanders could actually be a wild card team. They're not going to win this division, but I think they could be in the wild card mix. I like a lot of what they've done, not necessarily like the QB position. People are trying to sell me on Sam Howell. I'm still holding off reservations, but they got damn near everything else. I like Brian Robinson, love McLaurin and Dotson, even Logan Thomas at tight end. I think the defense has potential to be a top 10 defense, especially getting Chase Young back, even though he hasn't really lived up to what he was supposed to be. But I love the D-line in Washington. Forbes, I wouldn't have done it, but I understand. So I think this team is very interesting. Bieniemy finally gets the play call. Corey, let me know your thoughts on what the Commanders have done, how they're looking. What are you expecting for Washington this year?
So it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack, right? So when you start with the Commanders, let's start with the positives, right? The positives. The defensive line is stacked. You got Deron Payne, you got Jonathan Allen in that defensive line. you're supposed to have Chase Young, right? The Chase Young experiment might be coming to an end shortly. Chase Young, you are the edge rusher. That means you run, get the inside move, quarterback. If you're standing behind the quarterback, like Chase Young is a lot, can't do it. Chase Young had as much sacks as I did when he got hurt a couple years ago. You know what I'm saying? People were talking about he was going to be the defensive player of the year. But Sweat, you know what I'm saying?
Really
Allen,
good.
Payne, those dudes legit. Dominant 3 techniques that get in the paint and stop the run. I like Forbes a lot. Ball hawk, young corner who is quietly taking money to be the defensive rookie of the year. His number is starting to come down. A lot of people are in on him. He's a good young player. Kendall Fuller can play as well. So defensively, they're straight. The offensive line is problematic, right? They haven't been able to fix that offensive line. And then obviously, before we get to the quarterback, let's just address the real problem in Washington, right? Ron Rivera has been an NFL coach for 13 years. He's had 3 winning seasons. Everybody talk about how much of a nice man that Ron Rivera is. What about being a winning head football coach? Right. The last time the guy won double-digit games is when Carolina went to the champ. Look at that,
2017.
11 wins in 2017. Outside of that, this guy doesn't win.
It's the only times he's had a winning record. That's kind of crazy, bro.
That's it. He's only won those couple years in Carolina. Other than that, he's Jeff Fisher. But everybody talks about how he's great. He's a great head coach. Let me tell you how you know he's not a great head coach. When he threw Bieniemy under the bus, he came to the podium and said, "The players told me that Eric Bieniemy is giving them a problem. You the head coach, dog. Why do the players have to come to you? You say, hey, listen, Eric, cut the shit. You know what I'm saying? Our guys don't respond to that. This is what it's going to be. I understand what you're used to doing, but our guys don't respond to that. For the player to have to come to you, for you to go to the media, that means you're not watching what's going on or you don't care. You're supposed to be the head coach. You are not an independent contractor. You know what I'm saying? And then what is Washington really going to be under this new group? This is the same group that is the Philadelphia 76er group. That's an asset management group. That's Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. You don't have to play. That's not going to fly in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? You got to get the talent on the field. You got to play the players. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that group. So that's right there is, so you get the new ownership group in there, fine. Now, what's going to happen with Ron Rivera? That's where we start in Washington. Is Ron Rivera going to step up and be a head coach, or is he going to say, the players told me?
I think
Sam, if you're the head coach, the players shouldn't have to tell you.
And let's go ahead and keep it all the way 100. That was the rep for Bieniemy before he even got there, so he couldn't have been taken by surprise. It's not like a player's coming to him saying, yo, son, right on his hard pause. Oh, wow, I never would have imagined that. Like, that's been the knock on Bieniemy. It was the bullshit about never play called. It was the bullshit about he's a bad interview. And it was the bullshit of he's really hard on dudes. I mean, Shady McCoy was airing him out on national TV saying that. So none of this should have been a surprise for Ron Rivera.
No, 100%. So right there, I don't know if somebody put him on that staff, or whatever the case was, is right now it's off to a rough start. And to Bieniemy's credit, he came right and when he addressed the media, he said, "Well, listen, this is what the standard is." How come the coordinator used that word, but the head coach didn't? Because the head coach has only won 3 times in his career, so he don't know what the standard is. Now, Sam Howell, so interesting. Coming into the 2021 college football season, Sam Howell was the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. University of North Carolina probably would have been akin to what Saturday night of this week's going to be. Went into Blacksburg, Virginia, and Virginia Tech kicked their ass. And we haven't heard of Sam Howell since. I still think Sam Howell can play. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm optimistic on Sam Howell. So I'm optimistic. He's better than Brissett. He's better than Jake from State Farm. You know what I'm saying? And he's better than Tyler Heineke, what they had last year. Is he going to step up and be, one of these good young quarterbacks to come up We'll see. Can he be as good as a Jordan Love this year? Can he be as good as, say, who else? A young quarterback, a Kenny Pickett? Can he be as good as,
Justin Fields?
Justin Fields? I think Sam Howell's got a little bit of game to him. He's shown a little bit during the preseason, and that being the preseason, but it all starts up front. They got to get protection, and they got to get that line to protect, and that's when the head coach has to step in. And when you look at the line, now when we went to Dallas, it was Hall of Famers on the line. In Philadelphia, it was Hall of Famers on the line. With the Giants, you had an All-Pro on the line. These dudes suck.
Yeah, this is not. This line is good at run blocking, but even that's a stretch because they couldn't even run the ball that well last year. This is a very mid offensive line from top to bottom. Like there's no one. Look, as a former Bear fan, Charles Leno Jr., the fact that he's still in the league is amazing to me. But I mean, dog, because he could be a turnstile and he's left tackle. Come on, bro. Anyway, to your point. Sam Howell, to me, obviously he's the key because he's the quarterback, but I do think there is something there in terms of he gives that locker room a boost. Like, I think they believe in Sam Howell. And again, another dude where it's like, well, we're going to give you the weapons. And, this has been something I've been saying a lot here on this show is like, you either have the franchise QB who's a no doubt about it, top tier dude, or you take a dude that's mid and you surround him with a bunch of skill position dudes and try to coach him up to cook. And I think Sam Howell's fallen into that latter category where you give him Brian Robinson, and Bieniemy has already said he's high on Antonio Gibson, so you might be a really bad handcuff there for Brian Robinson, but Antonio Gibson looks to be back in the good graces of this new coaching staff. And then you got McLaurin and Dotson, who showed us a lot once he got healthy. And Curtis Samuel's no slouch either. Like, I like the weapons
receivers
here.
are good.
Yeah, the weapons are here.
I'm a big Gibson guy. I think Robinson is decent. I love Gibson. I love what he can do in the passing game. Full disclosure, this team should have been in on Dalvin Cook, and they need to be in on Jonathan. And they need to be in on Jonathan Taylor as well. I don't know what their cap situation, their money looks like, but they should have went and got them a proven running back. Maybe they want to wait till their old line gets bigger or better. McLaurin can play. Dotson can play. Samuel can play. Even Logan Thomas can play. So the pieces are there. The problem is you got to protect the quarterback. If they have a hard time protecting the quarterback, then it could, that group right there with
Swiss
Charles
cheese.
Leno Jr. can blow it all up. Can you imagine? How many people do you need to chip Micah Parsons when he's rushing Charles Leno Jr.?
Oh, my God. You're going to have to put Logan there. You're going to have to put Robinson and Gibson. You're going to do like 13 personnel.
You're going to put Ron Rivera out there.
Yes, everybody. Bieniemy, everybody got to be out there. And I think that's kind of where the issue lies to me, where it's like, I want to like this team. I really like McLaurin and Dotson together. I like the story of Brian Robinson. He definitely flashed in the second half of the year. But it's just like, yo, dogs, with the question mark of Sam Howell, with the tremendous question mark of this O-line, it's just hard for me to believe. But if I'm to believe what Eric Bieniemy has been saying, that boy's saying he's going to air it out. Now, if they air it out, well, as you said, Gibson's going to be a really big factor in this offense with the three wide receivers here. Maybe Robinson becomes more of a short yardage Zeke type role, and Gibson is the guy more or less. I like that. Like if they go 11 personnel and it's McLaurin, Dotson, Samuel with Logan and maybe Gibson in the backfield, I like that.
That's probably their best lineup right there. And that's probably their best lineup. And we'll see if Bieniemy is going to be able to go with that. Like I said, that offensive line is going to be critical, and the head coach. But when you look at the defense, though, this is where the rubber meets the road on this team. That Allen, Payne, Sweat, that's about as good as it gets.
Monsters.
Now, Chase Young got to try to join them dudes. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Facts.
Because you listen, like, what are we doing here? At some point, it's time to shit or get off the toilet, Chase Young.
Facts.
What happened? You tore the ACL, 2 years ago?
Right.
Next year, I'm going to play next week. I'm going to play next week. You ain't never play.
Yeah. I think the strength of this team is the D line, but it can also be the detriment of this team in the D line
Yes.
because if you're expecting Chase Young, I think that's the problem. But if you'll take him as a bonus, and as you said, rely on Allen and Payne in that middle and Sweat, who has surprised me. I didn't think that much of him. I ain't gonna hold you, but he certainly has shown improvement over the last few seasons. I like that front line a lot. Linebacking core to me is probably a weak spot here of this defense.
It is.
But then you go with the back four. You like Forbes more than I do, but I definitely know the skill set is there. He's a ball hawk, and I think the problem with this back four last year has been they can't turn the ball over. They can't force any turnovers.
They don't generate any turnovers.
And
that's
Forbes
been a problem in Washington for a while now too. They're close. A lot of games they're close, and if they can get that turnover, it can put them over the top. But they got to start taking the ball away, and that's why they drafted Forbes.
Right,
because
he's a ball hawk.
He can take the ball away. They're going to have to get better at that. So really, this defense is Forbes taking the ball away and Chase Young sacking the quarterback and not having the same amount of sacks as me.
Facts. All right. So let's go ahead and tap in.
I can't pressure the passer. You know what I'm saying?
So we got the Commanders over under 6.5. Some good juice there on the over.
Disrespectful. I take the over. This total is set at 6.5 because they know that the public don't buy Sam Howell. I'm a little bit more optimistic about Sam Howell. Not only would I take the over 6.5, you want something juicy at plus 290. Take the Commanders to make the playoffs.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, at plus 290. Commanders are the 7th wild card team this year.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see. There was a stat here. Okay. So talking about the defense, as we said. All right. The Commanders didn't make enough pass plays. They had just 18 takeaways, which was 26. So it goes into what we spoke about. Historically, they have not been able to turn the ball over, and that's why they probably went out there and got Emmanuel Forbes. So what say you in the chat? Over under 6.5 wins for the Washington Commanders. Let me know. Is there anything from a fantasy perspective that you're keeping an eye on for Washington?
This is interesting for fantasy, this situation with this backfield. You can get Antonio Gibson as a song in drafts right now. And I think he's the player that I want to target the most. McLaurin is good. Dotson is good. But these guys are better for Washington than they're going to be for your fantasy team.
Gotcha.
They're those type of players. Like Jahan Dotson, you see his touchdown numbers. That shows you how clutch he is. McLaurin, you can take McLaurin out the game with some good press coverage, but you got to see Curtis Samuel step up. I don't like him enough for fantasy. Like I said, this guy, Chris Rodriguez Jr., has ran well in the preseason, but really for me, it's Antonio Gibson at his price. And if you like those wide receivers, I would like him more in the wide receiver 3 range as opposed to a wide receiver 2. Okay. You know what I'm saying? They could be good pieces to have when the bye weeks start piling up, but ultimately it's Antonio Gibson is really the main dude. And then if you play tight end chicken too long and you get down to Logan Thomas, he might be able to buy you a week or two, but you got to figure something out.
Now,
who do they have as the header? Who's number 8 right there?
That's Dotson, right? Or
that's Dotson. Okay.
Yeah, it's Dotson. Yeah. So here's my thing here with Sam Howell, because he's been an interesting guy that in a couple leagues I've seen him taken in about the 8th, 9th round range. Is he a guy that has some sneaky fantasy value?
Then you would have to wait to see. I tell you, quarterbacks I would rather have over Howell, just thinking out loud right now. I would take Jordan Love over Howell. Okay. I'd take Kenny Pickett over Howell. I think Kenny Pickett's going to have a big year this year. I think Pittsburgh is going to rebound nicely this year. Quarterbacks I would take over Howell. Let me pull something up right quick. Pause. I know not Deshaun. It was obviously Deshaun Watson. Let's get down to his range. I would take Anthony Richardson over Howell. I'll take Russell Wilson over Howell. I'll take Jordan Love over Howell. I'll take Pickett over Howell. I'll take Brock Purdy over Howell. Right now, I would, and maybe even Bryce Young. But Bryce Young, I worry about Frank Reich, to be honest with you. I hate to get off on another division.
No.
But I worry
Go
about
ahead.
Frank because I know Bryce Young can play, but so far this preseason, but
Hasn't looked
the
it.
protection schemes have been terrible. That's
Yeah.
Frank Wright fault right there. If
Yeah.
I'm Nick Saban, I call him up like, listen, don't get this
What are you doing?
quarterback. Dude only
Yeah.
5'9". Can we not get him
Right.
killed already?
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Facts.
Yeah. I like Bryce Young though. I like Bryce Young a lot, but he's got a Frank Wright. You get one shot with this Frank Wright.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Out of the rookie QBs, taking it more from a fantasy perspective, are any of them worth drafting higher than maybe the 7th round? Like, is there if you're trying to wait on taking your QB and you're staring at those guys, well, what's around you would target the rookie QBs this year?
So I would go Anthony Richardson. When you get in the double digit, that 8-9 range, because he's going to have a high rushing upside, and obviously
Right.
when you can add that rushing as a quarterback, that really makes things better. So I would go Anthony Richardson over guys like Aaron Rodgers. I would go Anthony Richardson over Daniel. I would go Anthony Richardson over Daniel Jones. I would go Richardson over Russell Wilson. I would go Richardson over Derek Carr. This is all rushing ability. So
Right.
that's where it's at right there. And then once you get above that, once you go above Anthony Richardson, you're looking in that Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, Tua, Deshaun Watson, and then above that is the elite quarterbacks: Trevor, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Herbert, Burrow, Hurts, Allen, and Mahomes.
So for people tapping in who are preparing for their fantasy drafts, are you of the motion of wait for the QB or take your because now with running backs being allegedly devalued, that's even now spreading into fantasy. So
Yeah.
how are you trying to project the pit? Does it only depend on where you draft, or are you sticking to your board no matter what, favoring wide receivers over running backs and the like?
This is what I would tell anybody. The most important thing to learn this time of year is you and your crew, you and your homeboys, get ready to go to Buffalo Wild Wings for the annual event.
Right.
You don't every year y'all try to do it and it never works. You cannot predict the fantasy draft. You have to be prepared. You got to be loose. You got to be fluid because the draft board can go anyway. As far as drafting quarterbacks, this is a year that I want to get a quarterback early. I think we're getting ready. We talked about that stack earlier, that Hurts Brown stack.
Right.
That Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack can be
that's a nice
electric
one, too.
this year. As a matter of fact, Jamar Chase currently the favorite to win this year's Offensive Player of the Year award. So I want the elite quarterbacks this year. I tell you the quarterbacks I'm targeting: Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow, Jackson, Fields, Lawrence, and then Geno Smith.
Okay.
I think the Seahawks can represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. That's how good I think Seattle is.
Wow. Okay. I mean that offense looks to be unstoppable, especially with JSN in the fold. Like, how are you stopping that offense?
I mean, people don't. They talk about JSN. He might be off to a slow start. He got that injury. The last time JSN really played football, and that, if you remember, because he didn't play last year, he played in one game. Then he said, "I'm gonna wrap it up, get ready for the NFL." That last game he played, that bowl game versus Ohio State versus Notre Dame, son had 12 for 347 and 3 touchdowns. 12 for 347.
Silly.
Like, come on now. That's like, you done went up and down the field by yourself over 3 times.
Right.
So
right. I'm not concerned about JSN. I think it's the
real
49ers division to lose. But I would not be surprised if that offense is so nice that they could be right there with San Fran at the top of that division.
They were right there with them in the playoff game last year.
Yes,
they came out after the second half, and they were giving them some run. If they could have had a little bit more injuries on their side, they could have really made that thing interesting. San Francisco, listen, let me tell you something. Brock Purdy, if they get a book on him, what are you going to do? You going to go to Sam Darnold?
That's what I'm saying.
You know you're not going to go to Trey Lance.
No.
They hate him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They talked about, they asked Kyle Shanahan, well, what do you think about all the criticism that Trey Lance is taking? He said you got to have tough skin. That was all I needed to hear right there.
Right. You already know what time it is. You already know.
You already know what time it is. When he said that, I was like, he don't want you there either.
Facts. All right, let's see. We'll wrap things up here in the chat. Let's see. Scrub Zero's got the over for Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
Six
I
and a
think we
half
all need to
is.
be on that over for Washington. You know what
I
I'm
think
saying?
so.
Yeah. I mean, they can take 3 teams to the playoffs in this division again this year because I think the Lions are fugazi. I think the Bears are fugazi. I think San Francisco might be a little bit problematic this year. That North. I think Minnesota is not that good.
No.
Yeah, and then you look at that West, that could be a 1-team division right there. So I think you can be optimistic if you are an NFC fan, an NFC East supporter, that this division could put 3 teams in the playoffs yet again this year, with 2 being in the Final Four.
Are you concerned about potentially the South, like the Saints and the Falcons? A lot of people are riding high, especially the strength of schedule here. They got the top 2 easiest schedules in the league. The Saints and the Falcons is can both of those teams make the playoffs? We know one will, but can they get 2?
No, you know what? I think the Panthers going to win that division, right?
Really?
I do. I think, but listen,
Okay.
I might not take that tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, if Frank Wright let me down one more time, I'm off that bandwagon real fast.
Got you.
But one thing about Carolina, they've drafted well over the years. They got some dogs on their defensive line and their offensive line as well. That's why the blocking schemes are really what the problem is. But if Frank Wright can get that together and get that quarterback protected, I think, listen, that division can be won. It's not like Derek Carr is going to run away with the division. You know what I'm saying?
No. But again, another guy that's given a whole shit ton of weapons. So it's like, if these QBs are as good as he keep claiming that they're getting paid to be, like, dog, you got Kamara, you got Shaheed, you got Olave, Michael Thomas is trying to run it back to 2019. Like,
the problem is that head coach is no good either. Dennis Allen is no good either.
Yeah, he's shaky for sure. Yeah, he's shaky.
And shout out to Jameis Winston for staying with New Orleans, for hanging in there with that organization and saying the right things. Yeah. He should be that team's starting quarterback.
Even with Derek Carr being there, or they shouldn't have signed Derek Carr. It stayed with Jameis.
They shouldn't have signed Derek Carr. They should have stayed with Jameis.
Okay. I mean, look, I think Jameis will never live down that 30-30 year. I think that 30-30 year is like the definite, put that show in his tombstone. Like, I think that was the most Jameis year ever, bro. I think he'll never live that shit down, unfortunately.
Yeah, nah, but listen, Jameis is one of my favorite guys in the NFL.
For sure, no doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
I think he deserves another shot. But let me tell you something. He don't mind throwing one to the other team.
No, he loves that shit, dog.
He don't mind throwing 30 to the other team.
Yeah, he likes to make it interesting.
One,
yeah. All right, so I'll open it up to the chat. Any type of Q&A you have for Corey here, and if not, then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But I think that this is a very insightful episode. Let's see. Scrub Zero talking about Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is a hella suspect coach. That's facts. Yeah. Scrub Zero, Derek used Carr. Okay, he's on his pun game. Here's the thing with
Derek Carr. At one point last year, I was like, you know what they did with Derek Carr, with Josh McDaniels and them, what they did with Derek Carr was wrong. How they threw him under the bus. But then I watched that game when they still had a shot to make the playoffs, and they had Pittsburgh in their home building, and it was 4th down, and Darren Waller was opening the seam, and Derek Carr threw the ball to Mike Tomlin. That's when I was like, this is a problem.
Yes.
And then getting ready for fantasy this year, Devontae Adams had 180 targets last year, and he only caught 100 passes. That's on Derek
ain't Devontae's fault. Yeah.
That's on Derek. That's not Josh McDaniels' fault either. That's Derek Carr's fault.
I agree. So here's a question from Magic Man. Who is the hotter coach or better? Hope you mean better. You're not asking us who's the better coach, Ron Rivera or Todd Bowles? Oof.
Boy, that's really scraping.
Yeah, dog. I don't want to have to make that decision, dog. Like, I'll say Ron Rivera just because Todd Bowles has literally shown us nothing. At least Ron Rivera has shown us if he has Cam Newton, he can win a lot of games. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, Todd Bowles has shown us absolutely nothing.
Get that last one down there with my man Scrub Zero, a tight end steal.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Listen, this year I like the big tight ends: Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, Kittle, Waller. Kyle Pitts got to show it to me. If it happens, it happens. Evan Ingram is as low as I want to go. After that, I don't like none of those dudes. But if you do get to your point where you play tight end chicken too long, Pat Fairmouth from Pittsburgh, I hope I said his name right. Chick Okonwu in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Chick Okonwu and Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo are my two favorite tight end sleepers coming into the season. And listen, and Hayden Hurst in Carolina as well. I like Hayden Hurst a lot. Former Gamecock. He's a guy that's looking like he could possibly be a security blanket for Bryce. And then, listen, here's the thing with Baltimore. Like, obviously Mark Andrews is the man. That guy Isaiah Likely can play too. You know what I'm saying? So,
yep.
Do they open it up and they get enough targets?
He wants to do 2 tight ends, so like he'll definitely get some targets.
Then Isaiah Likely is somebody that should be rostered in fantasy leagues, and then also, like I said, the young cat in Tennessee, Chick Okonwu should be rostered, and then and Dalton Kincaid looks like he's going to have a role in Buffalo.
Okay, let's see. Magic Man, I should have said pause. Yes, you should have. You should have said pause. That was a nasty question, bro. Let's see. So Scrub Zero's asking, so no David Njoku. He's like the coulda, shoulda, woulda stud for like 3 to 4 years, pause.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with Njoku. It's like, I've been waiting for this for so long, pause. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's just, and then I'm not really, bro, I ask you this question. Who would you rather have for fantasy this year, Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson?
Oof.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson was rusty last year. Oh, he looked real bad, bro. He looked terrible last year. Like sometimes, I worried that wasn't rust. Like I worried, okay, maybe he released too much. One of those 40-something sessions he had.
They were hit too good. You know what I'm saying? The nasty man, Deshaun Watson. I think I'll give this caveat for Deshaun. Same, like I almost have dropped him to the tier of like an average QB because it's like, well, you got weapons. You got Amari. You got Chubb in the backfield. Like, we think Njoku, he always looks the part. Like, so I think potentially he should be able to do better than Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson, they keep they keep falling down and getting hurt in Denver. Like, I don't know what Sean Payton doing out there. And he's only trying to run it back doing 2-a-days or some shit, but everybody in Denver keeps falling down. So I don't know if there's going to be anything left for Russell to throw to in Denver.
I don't think Sean Payton want anything to do with Russell Wilson. To be 100% honest with you,
I agree.
I think that contract for Payton was inflated. I think that's the only reason he took that job. Yeah. I think if he get a chance to get Russell Wilson up out of there, I think he'll do that. I thought he was going to raid around for the Charger job and work with a quarterback with talent. But you remember when the Eagles traded McNabb to Washington?
Yeah.
I feel like, and they pulled the fast one on Washington. Yeah. I feel like the Seahawks pulled the fast one on the Broncos. Like they traded him a washed up quarterback.
For sure, no doubt. Let's see. All right, we won't get into that. They both great though. All right, let's see. Y'all got anything else in the chat? If not, I will wrap it up. So let me know. You know what I'm saying? If we good, we good. I see Corey's no longer in here. He probably didn't like the Cowboy take, so he ran up out of here. Let's see what else we got. All right. So, well, I know next week I'm doing the AFC and NFC North. We kind of talked a little bit about the NFC North. Any thoughts just to the AFC North, like from a fantasy perspective or just overall? Is there any teams you're looking for? So on and so forth.
The toughest division in football, the AFC North. I think we get an AFC North championship. I think we get 3 classic battles between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, with the third one being in the AFC championship game. And I think that, put it like this, Baltimore looked horrible at times last year with Lamar Jackson on the field, and their record was 8-3. Right. Baltimore, they almost beat Cincinnati in the playoff game with Tyler Huntley.
Talk about it. See, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the shit I think people keep forgetting is that this squad was still good even when Lamar wasn't even there. Like, they were competitive in games. They weren't getting blown the fuck out.
Yeah, and so now you get Lamar back, open up that offense a little bit. I think we
Finally.
get a Bengals AFC Championship game,
Okay.
and we'll see who the winner is. But I like the North. Now the wild card in the North is Deshaun Watson, because if Watson can play and Watson gets back, now you're like, you got
Browns got a
Watson,
squad. Yeah.
Burrow and Jackson, and what I think is an up and coming Pickett in the division. Listen, even if Pickett's not up and coming, they got a Hall of Fame head coach on their sideline.
Exactly.
They're always going to be in it.
Exactly. No, it's a very tough division. I can't wait to tap into that on Monday. Scrub Zero's asking any defense to look for, I guess, in fantasy.
I mean, I think you draft the Cowboys first because of the fact that they are the ones that create the most turnovers. As far as, what was done team defense wise last year, points per game basis, you kind of like Philadelphia. It's really the top. It's Philadelphia, San Francisco, Dallas, New England, Buffalo, and then the Jets. Let me speak on the Jets right quick.
Go
I
ahead.
love Micah Parsons for Defensive Player of the Year, but Quinnen Williams down there at 30-1, 3-technique defensive tackle. We've been talking about it for the past hour.
Yep.
When they're good, your team is good. And Quinnen Williams, he looks like he's getting ready to have a monster year.
No, I love Quinnen Williams. I think he's the key to that whole defense. He makes that whole shit go. Like, yes, having Reed and Sauce is also a luxury, but having Quinnen Williams being that disruptor on that line every goddamn down, he's worth all the bread, bro. All the bread.
Yep.
They probably underpaid him. Like they should have gave him more bread. Let's see. All right, I think we'll wrap it up there. I know Magic Man has his anti-Lamar shit going on right now. I don't really have the energy to be battling about Lamar. If you want to be a Lamar detractor, cool story, bro. But they literally have the OC come out and say they finally have opened up the playbook. They're allowing him to actually audible. So imagine what he was able to do with that 31 touchdown and 6 interception MVP year, and he couldn't even fucking do audibles at the line. He couldn't slide past pro. Now they're actually letting him be a full quarterback to his highest capabilities, and he's got Zay Flowers, and he's got Odell. Come on, dogs, like relax.
And he's got Mark Andrews in those tight ends too. I think Lamar is still his top target is still going to be Mark Andrews. Now, here's the thing, right? They don't put him under center enough. It's so interesting to me. And he has said he wouldn't mind playing under center, but even Monken is not going to have him on the center a lot, which I find interesting. Right. It's interesting. But 46 and 18 is a starter. It doesn't really. That's the most important.
You play to win the game. Like, come on, dogs. All right, Scrub Zero. Everybody's good. All right, cool. Well, Corey, thank you for pulling up, man. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to make sure we have all your stuff there in the description so people can support you, subscribe, do the liking, all that stuff that y'all supposed to do, all the YouTube shit. Make sure y'all go over there to Corey's channel, The Fantasy Executive, and tap in. He's doing a lot of good content. He talks about media. He talks about everything going on with NFL, NBA. He's all over it. We like to support creators that look like us on this side of the fence because we know how them gatekeepers are. So we're always about promoting each other. So, Corey, thank you so much for pulling up, man. I really do appreciate it.
No doubt. And we get close to the NBA season, we got to hop in there and talk about some of that stuff too. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking forward to that December 19th day when NBA YoungBoy gets a chance to get back on the court. You know what I'm saying? And I think he's going to have a special season this year. So we'll look out for that.
No doubt. If you want to tap in, that's John Morant. Y'all know how I've been doing with the job content. Corey's all over that as well. So yeah, for sure, we'll definitely tap in once NBA gets going. But yeah, thank y'all so much for pulling up. This has been Timeline T. I am your host, D. Sam D, aka Sam Duzame Jr. We out.